Hello and welcome back again to Detmark TV's standard deck feature and discussion for Kamigawa Dynasty Standard. And today we're going to have sort of what we call a tempo deck with the Scholars of Dimir, which is before was can be considered as a top-tier metagame deck just before the rotation. But the good thing is it is back again with this version of the list by with Kamigawa Dynasty as the sole provider of this new card components. So what's important here in this build, as we call it, as the Dimir Aggro, it was played in the 99H event at Friday SC Magic with 31 players in attendance. This was played by Kanata and it made into the first place of the tournament. So as I mentioned, the importance of being this Dimir tempo deck is that you would consider having to curb out early on with the 1-2-3 punch, but at the same time you would also need the tempo spells and combat tricks to get through your damage early on, and also you need short counter spells and cheap bounce, and also removals and hard disruption to make sure that your creatures will be protected and could deal later on enough damage to finish off opponents. So we start with the creature sizes. Since this is a rogue tribal deck, we go the 1-drops. It's basically composed of 11 creatures. So we have the Return of Merfolk Windrubber, which is also a popular 1-drop for the rogue decks back in Zendikar Standard. So it is also a evasion by itself, but it can also mill off opponents whenever it deals combat damage, and also will get you to do a card by sacrificing it if you are able to have your opponent 8 or more cards in their graveyard. So you can pick off early on, which can also activate their creatures' other ninjutsu abilities. And one supporting card on it is the Thousand Face Shadow. It is a 1/1 by itself for 1 with flying, but its ninjutsu ability of 4, which makes it a very important mid-game to late-game card ability, as it can create a token that's a copy of another target attack creature, which makes your anthem effects more twice the effects. I mean, when you get this ninjutsu ability on the stack. And so this is another the 1-drop for which it's basically another flyer in itself for 1, but it can enters the battlefield, tap target permanent. It's not that great since does not have flash, but the good thing is you can basically tap off the biggest blocker or creature their opponents, and you can just pick off damage early on. And at the same time, it is an ninjutsu enabler itself. So going back to the importance of having your creature curve going from 1-drop, 2-drop, and 3-drop. So next up is a 2-drop, your Burn Circuit Hacker, but giving it has ninjutsu of 1. So basically this is just a 1 to cast for 2/1. And the good thing is whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. And the drawback is you will discard a card unless it has entered the battlefield this turn. So given the first time that you would activate its ninjutsu and it deals combat damage, you basically just replace itself by drawing your card. And of course, this is your anthem effect for the ninja and rogue creatures. It gets your ninjutsu abilities activation 1 less to activate, and at the same time it has also a ninjutsu by itself and gets your other rogue ninja creatures you control +1/+1. So Master Splinter is one of your best cards for pumping out your rogue and ninjas to be able to finish off the opponent quickly. And this is an old school 2-drop by itself, the Soaring Thought Heap from Zendikar Rising. So it just requires you to have 8 or more cards in your opponent's graveyard to get them your rogue's additional +1/+0. But do not worry about it since it is already a 2-drop 1/3 by itself, and it can trigger also mill and milling 2 cards of opponents whenever one or more rogue you control attacks. And next part is the 3-drop Biting Palm Ninja. But given it's a 3/3 cast by its 3/3, but its ninjutsu ability is giving it a menace counter. So whenever it deals combat damage to a player, just remove the menace counter to reveal their hand, and you can basically coerce their hand by getting the best threat or spot removal or mass removal at that time, and you can exile that card. So whenever you have multiple ninjutsu effects, you can basically bounce this card again. So you gotta basically refresh its menace counter, and you just cycle it again for another ninjutsu effect to be able to regain another menace counter and get your opponent to discard their best card in a moment. Again, Prosperous Thief for 3 cast 3/2, but it has ninjutsu of 2. So whenever a rogue creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create a token, which basically gets you to ramp more into our big spells later on, or you just get extra mana to open your counter spells or other bounce spells that you may need. So this is basically your 5-drop, but it is 4-drop by in a sense, by having this ninjutsu, sort of a long text of a ninjutsu effect, then putting it into battlefield tap and attacking. So whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put target permanent card from the player's graveyard into battlefield under your control. So basically all of those milled cards, or maybe the discarded cards from your opponent's graveyard, will be used as an additional threat, or maybe one of your best threats, whenever Zareth-san, the Trickster, deals combat damage. So for the spells, we have basically one of the cheap casting, one Fading Hope, given as a bounce spell. Spell Pierce for protection of your creatures. You can just counter the best non-creature unless they pay 2. So basically, early on, if you get to aggro them and they would need to kill off your best creature, you can just open 1 blue mana to Spell Pierce it and counter. And 2 copies of March of Soaring Mist, just basically facing out your creature or any other creatures that would need to go through your attack, but it's just a sort of the offense and defense kind of card, and it's also good since you can get to pay additional X by just exiling any number of blue cards from your hand. Also, 2 copies of Agadim's Awakening. It's basically just a land drop early on, but if you get to need to have this card to return any number of target creature cards which has different mana value of X or less. And in times that you would need to resurrect basically all of your rogue creatures, maybe 1, 2, or at least 3 creature cards, then you would need to hardcast this for 3 mana, and X for 3, then basically 6 total mana you would need. So we go with the lands choices, given the pathway blue-black. 1 copy of Hall of Storm Giants for the additional creature threat manland. Hive of the Idle Tyrant is basically the popular manland from Adventures of Forgotten Realms. This is widely used in blue-black control, Esper, and maybe in white-black or so. A few islands, 2 copies of Utawara. It's also good channel land from Kamigawa in the Dynasty. A playset of the Shipwreck Marsh, and 1 copy of Takinuma Abandoned Mire, and also a few swamps. Now going through the sideboard, we have additional spells for discard and other color-specific spot removals. So we go first with Duress as additional support to get your opponent's threats or maybe spot removals, mass removals, so you can basically protect your creatures and attack early on. while they do get to establish first their board. Additional fading hop for other aggro decks, bouncing their creatures and at the same time getting you to scry 1 to filter your draws. Ray Enfeeblement, given that Mono White is still a popular metagame deck in Standard, you can basically the skill of their best creature, -4/-4, if its color is white. And additional 2 copies of Infernal Grass, no holds barred, no limitation, just destroy target creature and just pay 2 life in the process. Kaito Suzuki, I think this is for control setup. It gets you to face this out at the beginning of your end step, but at the same time when you play this, draw a card and discard the card unless you attack this turn. So basically you're just going to play this post combat. And at the same time you can also produce a blue ninja creature token, wherein you can use that to as another creature source to ninjutsu all of your other creatures if able to need it. Then you get an emblem if the game goes long. Whenever a creature control deals combat damage to a player, search the library for blue or black creature card and put it in the battlefield, then shuffle. It's not that great, but it gets you more creature threats in the process for free whenever you get your opponent, whenever you get your creature to deal combat damage to your opponent. Then lastly is a malicious malfunction. I think this is for maybe for other aggro decks, maybe for mono red, since it will just basically -2/-2 all over your board for 3 mana, and then if ever a creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So this is another additional support in case that you get to face faster decks with cheaper mana cost in the setup. So for a quick sideboard plan now, you can just basically choose the least effective card in your main deck and then replace that with your sideboard card. For example, you might need to cut off March of Swirling Mist, maybe 1 copy of this, and if ever you face aggro decks, now basically the Spell Pierce is an auto side out for this, and you replace Ray of Enfeeblement or Infernal Grasp. And then for maybe for mono red, you can build add malicious malfunctions and fading hops to delay their aggro. And at the same time, if you get to face mid range, I think you would need more. Infernal Gas is good, but I think it would need to have good spot removals for maybe for mono reds. For mono green, since they are basically have bigger threats and also can curve out pretty well. So bouncing them may be good, but not in a way killing their best creatures. So you might need to consider that sideboard plan. So in going with control, Kaito Suzuki is a good choice along with Jures. And if we get maybe if we have the best creature in the process, or maybe I'm not sure if we'll include the horror, the 6 to cast horror in the deck, or the 7 to cast horror, then you might need efficient spot removal to kill it before you get them to establish. So overall, that is the Dimir aggro tempo deck. This Sodu Ninja Rogues setup in a tribal fashion, and I do hope you get to learn this. Maybe if you get to playtest this in Arena or MTG Online, since it's already one good setup against in a local tournament, then maybe you would consider having this as your grinding deck in the ranking for MTG Arena or maybe on Magic Online. So that is a wrap for this standard deck tech with Kamigawa and Dynasty. I do hope you enjoy listening to this voiceover episode, and don't forget to click like and subscribe, and until the next upload, thank you.